Welcome to Creators Anonymous. This is the podcast that reaches out to creative people to get to know them better, find out what they do for a living, and their creative process. And today, since this is our first episode, it is just me and my co-host Seth.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
We're really doing this podcast just so you guys can get to know us and why we're doing this, and basically what's driving us to find these creative people and support them in what they're doing. So me and Seth have just a few questions to ask each other, and then we're gonna kind of round dog this and just chat back and forth for a little while.
Did you just say round dog?
Yeah, is that not the phrase?
Round dog?
I don't know.
Like round?
Is it
like
is it round? Is it round robin?
Round robin? Round robin kind of.
It's
No, we're gonna round dogging this. I agree. We're gonna round dog this.
it's 1
There is no
a.m.
more round robin.
It's 1 a.m. I'm allowed to make a little what's the phrasing mistake. So don't shame me. No judging. No judging.
3 barks up.
Okay, Seth, if you want to ask the first question, go for it.
All right. So, James, what made you want to start your own podcast? I mean, I thought it was crazy at first, but it's kind of cool. We got all the equipment. We got some recording down. We got to meet some cool people already, and this is only our first episode. So, I mean,
Yes.
What made you want to start this?
Well, we are recording this podcast completely out of order. We have 2 podcasts laid out already with some amazing people. But what made me really want to start this podcast was, honestly, I listen to podcasts probably 12 hours a day, and that's because I work 12 to 14-hour shifts. So I have a lot of time to listen to podcasts, and the one thing I hear on these podcasts is they're always struggling for funding, and I hear about that with local musicians, local artists, and honestly, I just wanted to give those people a platform that they can come and express their art and tell us more about them as people and the struggles that they go through to be able to create art. And I just don't think finances should be a reason that they can't do something they love.
Yeah, definitely. That can be kind of hard to fun. I mean, you show me. I mean, you listen to way more podcasts than I do, and I think it's really cool to not only to listen to some of these podcasts and to hear the amount of creativity it takes, but also just seeing all the different artwork that you've shown me from all the different cosplayers. Like that has to take a lot of effort and time and money, and it's cool to share something that you enjoy, whether it's at a con or just a costume, seeing that somebody put their passion and their heart into.
Yeah. Well, all of those people, I'm kind of really just jealous that they're doing that, and I have no talent in it whatsoever. Like the only gift I have is the gift for gab, so I can talk into a microphone for hours on end and not really have to worry about it. But
This is true.
well, I see how it is. But so when I got the call that basically said, "Hey, we want to," because I do have a sponsor. I have a budget for the podcast that doesn't allow me to have to use my own money for it. So as long as I keep it within that budget, I don't have to pay out. So yes, I do have a sponsor, which a lot of people don't, and that's amazing. And I'm hoping I can put some of that money into other creative people's pockets. But when I found out about it, it was probably 10 o'clock at night when I was at work. So, like, the next thing I did was I called you and I was like, Seth, this just happened, but I'm not willing to do it without you. So, why did you let me talk you into doing this podcast?
So I was kind of laying on my couch and I was like, wait, what? Like, is he insane? Okay, but okay, let's do this. And I think the biggest reason I wanted to do it was I get to be with my friend and hang out and try something new, and just talk with all these people. I mean, I'm a nerd like you, and I mean, I haven't really been to a lot of cons, but I like going to just different cons and just hanging out with people, talking with them. And I also love figuring out how people impact their community or their environments, because eventually someday I want to start my own youth center. So, I think learning and talking to people, just figuring out what other problems they solve for either funding or just going through their communities, or even just being creative would help me learn too.
So, off topic, you want to make your own youth center, and we're doing this podcast. How awesome would it be if you met somebody that was just like, "Oh, you want to do a youth center? I'll come teach a class on how to do podcast, or not podcast, cosplay gear, all that
That'd be
other stuff.
awesome.
Like, we find a painter, like, yeah, I'll come teach a painting class.
Dude, I could have my own horde. I could walk around. That'd be so cool.
Are you talking about a bunch of people in, like, the Horde Warcraft-style orc costumes?
Yeah, except they wouldn't be saying Dabu or like, alright. They'd be like, bring it on. Let's slay the king or the world. Or go and make cookies. I don't know. Something cool.
Orc cookies. I just feel like that would be toes sticking out of them with, like, broken toenails.
That's pretty inventive. We should
Yeah, especially if they made that out of like, what's that, fondant that they put on cakes?
Fondant, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could do that. That's a good idea.
That could be awesome.
That's it. I'm gonna write that one down. Fondant cookies. All right. So James, you know, I'm kind of curious. Like, you started this podcast, and who do you want to impact the most, and why?
So, impacting people. Honestly, I want to impact the creators. I want all of you fans out there, and anybody listening to this podcast, and anybody that we interview, or if you guys visit our websites, Facebook, Twitter, anything like that, because we're going to be putting all their art and whatever they do up on that. We're going to be putting links to other podcasts, putting up trailers for them, anything like that. If you guys really, really like that, I hope to God you as fans are impacted enough to be able to donate some of your hard-earned cash or reblog their stuff on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anything to get their work out there and seen by as many other people as possible, because somebody's bound to be like, I really like this and I want to throw some money at it so they can keep doing it. There are massive success stories in cosplay, artists, music, podcasters, where just because people were sharing their stuff got them financing, whether it was from Patreon or just sponsorships.
Definitely. That takes a lot of faith to do what they do. Yeah,
it takes a lot of dedication.
Yeah.
A lot of dedication, because I hear about it all the time where people start it and they do a podcast and then they do it for a whole year and they're like, oh, I have 1,000 downloads, but then all of a sudden in their second and third years they blow up to 10,000 to 100,000 to 1,000,000 downloads. And it's simply because they found a few people that really like their stuff and they started sharing it. And that's what I'm hoping to happen. Since we are an interview podcast, Seth, are you looking to interview somebody special? Like, who do you definitely want to interview that not everybody would really know?
I think the biggest person I would want to... Well, I don't have, like, a side person yet that I want to interview.
Okay.
That, like... But as far as, like, famous people go, I would... Someday, it'd be really great to interview Jason David Frank, because I'm a huge fan of Power Rangers. If I could just sit down with him for like an hour and just talk about his life, just to get to know him a bit, that'd be great.
You need to check out this guy on Twitter. His handle is @GundamGuys. His name's Jeff. He's a huge Power Ranger fan, and honestly, I think you guys, if you sat down for a little while and just talked, you guys would nerd out on Power Rangers like no other.
I'd be down. I'll do that. Okay. What about you? Who do you want to interview the most, James?
Well, that's kind of hard.
Other than literally all of your Twitter, all of everything else that you have, the whole community.
The biggest one I already interviewed, which was Casey Wayland. Stay tuned for that podcast because I will be putting that up probably number 3.
Dun dun dun.
But I got to sit down and talk with him, and it was absolutely amazing. And I got to nerd out with him, and he was an absolute awesome. He was everything I thought he would be, and even more. And it was just so great sitting there chatting with him about We're Alive, simply because I love that podcast. It was the first podcast I ever found, and I found it in 2010, and I've listened to it at least once a year since then. Andy's got more podcasts coming out. I can't wait for more, but honestly, if there's anybody out there I'm dying to interview, I want to interview Babish from Binging with Babish, the cooking show.
Ooh. And you're definitely a big cook. I mean, you do a lot of cooking.
Yeah, I do the cooking
coming over.
Yeah,
I do everybody.
I do the cooking for my family. My wife is picking up more of it since I work nights. But I guess the other person I really want to interview is the Cosplay Bunny on Twitter. Her name's Blue. She's absolutely amazing. She puts so much work behind her craft, and she's a cosplayer, and she's absolutely amazing at what she does, and she's just level-headed on Twitter, and she likes to interact with her fans, and she's just an awesome chick. So I can't wait to sit down and talk with her as well.
That's awesome.
So Seth, what do you want to get out of this podcast?
I think the biggest thing I want to get out of this podcast is learning how to be a better me. Just from talking to people and learning from everybody around me, because I think there's something to learn from everyone, no matter who you are. Honestly, I want creative ideas for my youth center later, and I want to start my own. How do I say it? My own skit company, not like.
So your very own Saturday Night Live?
No, not. Maybe. Kind of like that.
How about In Living Color?
In Living. What is this?
They're old '90s skit shows. They're hilarious.
Oh jeez. No, not like that. Eventually at my youth center, I want to have my own skit team to be able to make skits and to help people analyze situations. And I used to be in a program called Spots in high school, and it was students performing on tough situations. So we helped kids just process through a lot of different challenges from drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever was going on.
So theater to help combat social problems like cyberbullying, drugs, stuff like that. Gotcha.
Whatever problems are in the community. And I think when a big thing about being creative is you have to learn how to solve problems, whether they're like that or maybe it's funding or whatever it is.
Yeah, we tried sitting down before and recording with a really good friend of ours for our episode number 2, and my computer took a huge poop on everything and stopped working.
Really bad poop.
I understand dealing with problems.
This is true.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing. But I'm super excited, especially because I feel like I've gotten to know you better through this, and I feel like, I don't know, I've seen you grow a little bit, so.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to growing in this podcast, and I'm really looking forward to meeting just a ton of people, and I'm really hoping we get to go to a bunch of cons and meet a whole bunch of creative people there. Hopefully get interviews with them. I got this awesome little mic on a stick that we're going to be recording people on my cell phone. Like, I cannot wait to just meet all these tons of new people, and hopefully we get them a buttload of funding, because that's one thing I'm really proud that I have an amazing sponsor to step in and provide us a budget for our podcast.
We're definitely grateful.
Yeah, I'm super grateful for it, because I don't have to ask the fans to support us. Like, I'm really hoping that one day we can get a merch store, but all of that money that we end up raising through a merch store, and if we do start a Patreon for us, I'm gonna just pour it back into the creative community and put that money back into them, because I really hate the term starving artist, and I want to get rid of it.
Definitely.
I mean, that's a huge personal fight, but I hate that term.
So, James, what kind of questions do you want to ask people? I mean, you're a pretty intuitive person.
See, it all depends on what they do. Like, when it comes to an artist, like, I want to know how much time that they've spent, what started them, how did they get started in painting, drawing, whatever type of artist they are. How did they find their niche? Like, how did they find their style? Who inspires them? What are they hoping that their art can do for them? Honestly, and if we get extra funding, I wouldn't mind supporting some artists and getting their own galleries. Like, I'm not going to pay for a whole gallery myself. I mean, maybe one day, but not right now. This brother's broke.
Okay, cool. So what kind of creative thing are you working on right now? I mean,
other than this podcast?
Yeah.
The only really creative stuff I'm doing outside of this podcast, because I work so many hours a week, is I play video games with my kids. Mostly the biggest creative thing I'm doing is just being a dad, and I know a lot of people are like, "What? Being a dad isn't creative?" But do you know how creative you have to be a dad? Let me get down here with you and be real.
Like dodging projectile vomit?
No, I'm talking about just entertaining a small mind is hard. They are constantly moving, and you never know where their imagination is going to bring you. Like right now, my son is all about cars racing My Little Ponies and giant robots flying above them.
He's got a creative mind. This is cool.
He is all like, his imagination is huge and it's full of color and it's amazing, and I have to be on top of that. Like I have to be there and help him grow. Like that's the most creative thing I could ever do.
It's the coolest thing you can do is helping the kid grow up.
Well, yeah, he's my son and I love him to death, and I love my two daughters too, and like I love doing things with them. And my 6-year-old is all about cooking and creating bath bombs out of, for some reason I don't know how those two mix, but she loves helping me cook, and she loves making bath bombs. So I try to help both of them.
How does she make bath bombs?
It's a process.
It's a process.
Yeah, we bought her a kit and she learned how to do it that way, and now she just wants to buy all the stuff and make her own bath bombs.
Cool.
Hopefully she'll get really, really good at it and she can turn it into a business into the future.
Wait, let's clarify. Bath bombs, not real bombs. Bath bombs.
Yeah, the little ball things that you put in your bath and they like foam up and make everything smell great.
Yeah, just checking.
Yes. But and then my 13-year-old, she's all about Minecraft right now. And yes, hot topic right here. I hate Minecraft with a passion.
It's okay, guys. I'll help you.
No, you don't understand. It's 2020. For crying out loud, can we get above 8-bit? Like, I understand people create great things in Minecraft, but you got to zoom out way far. Otherwise, you look like a 90s picture loading up on your DOS computer, for crying out loud. Like,
even if it looks like a 90s 8-bit picture, you can create things like the Starship Enterprise and the Death Star in detail and 1-to-1 scale, and people have done it.
okay, well,
So there's a lot of dedicated people out there that are pretty creative.
since you play Minecraft with my daughter, you can make that, and then I'm like, that's cool. Fly the ship now.
Hey, it's possible. There's people that can do it with pistons, all right? It works.
I'm just saying, like, there's so many other games out there that are massively just underrated. Like No Man's Sky, you can do all of that stuff in No Man's Sky in a 3D environment.
Okay, touche.
Oh, and by the way, in No Man's Sky, you can also fly across the entire universe and discover multiple other planets, find dinosaurs, and tons of stuff.
Nice.
And there's other games like that too, but yeah, I'm lame.
That's not lame.
So Seth, what creative stuff are you working on and or appreciating right now?
I'd say a little bit of Minecraft. I would say a little bit of Minecraft. I'm not a huge fan, but I am working on it. What other creative stuff am I appreciating?
What, not the Power Rangers game?
No, I haven't been playing it. I wish.
Oh, mister, I'm a big Power Ranger fan. Can't even play the game.
Oh, jeez, I'm never going to hear the end of this. No, I'm working on that now. Other creative stuff. I gotta think. I think definitely this podcast, learning how to challenge myself, asking questions.
Getting used to having a mic in front of your face.
Yeah, I'm not used to that yet.
I did like your idea of doing a D&D podcast, and honestly, I'm really thinking about it and somehow incorporating my wife, maybe some friends from church, just get a bunch of people to do that. And if we do set up a Patreon page, maybe that'll be, hey, check out our D&D cast on Patreon, and if you guys like that and you're willing to get into it, then that money that we raise up from that Patreon will go towards paying other creative people or something. Like
Definitely.
any money we raise on this podcast, we will be full forthcoming on where it's going and everything.
Cool. So, James, I'm curious. You asked me about what I'm going to learn from this podcast. I'm kind of. What about you? What do you think you're going to learn?
What am I going to learn?
Mm-hmm.
Editing, number one. I've learned a lot of editing.
That's awesome.
I'm learning where to get free music and stuff for the podcast. But honestly, we don't want to use the free music archive. We want to interview people, and hopefully they'll let us use or write music for our podcast. Like literally everything about our podcast is going to be creator supported.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping to learn more about all these creators, and hopefully like our podcast will represent that all the way from the the banner, which is right here, by the way, which was drawn by my 16-year-old niece.
So this looks pretty cool. It is a hand, and it's holding a mic straight up, and it's not bedazzled, but it looks like a cornucopia on the mic, and a disco ball on top, and some color.
Dude, that's what the mic looks like. Look at your mic right now.
Okay, it looks like a mic. Okay, and there's some colors and creators, but it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, she worked really, really hard on it, and I was really, really happy that she stepped up for it. So yes, art for the podcast is done by my niece Willow. Thank you, Willow.
Thank you, Willow.
She's probably not going to listen to this, but thank you, Willow.
I know you listen to a lot more podcasts than I do, especially at work. So what's something that you listen for in podcasts? Is there anything that pops out for you?
So my absolute favorite types of podcasts are two best friends talking about a subject they're passionate about. The two top podcasts that really come to mind are Three Spooked Girls, which they talk true crime, but their friendship really bleeds through, and the Gundam guys. They are watching one episode at a time of the 1979 Gundam series, which is the first Gundam series ever. And then they're rehashing the episode, and they're talking about what they liked and what they didn't like, and it's just a really great buddy podcast, and I love those types of podcasts. They're what keeps me coming back. There's also another one that actually the Gundam guys turned me on to called Pokemon World Tour United, which is basically D&D Pokemon style, and
it sounds just cool. I haven't listened to it yet, but I really want to.
It's got 3 people on it right now. I'm not very far into the series yet, but it's done by Hey Jake and Josh production company, and they're great how they bounce off of each other, and you can tell that they're really good friends. And I like those types of podcasts, and I love the other type of podcasts I really enjoy are audio dramas that they put a lot of work in. Oz 9, We're Alive, The Leviathan Chronicles, Sage and Savant. If I had my phone, I would tell you a whole bunch more, but I don't. And they're just amazing. But I also like crude comedy ones like Rude Alchemy. Oh, if you do not have a strong stomach, don't listen to Rude Alchemy. But if you like crude comedy, I can't really describe them. They're just hilarious. And honestly, I really hope I get to interview them sometime because those guys are awesome and I love them.
That sounds like fun.
If you all listen to Rude Alchemy, just remember, oh, honey. You have to listen to Rude Alchemy. You have to listen to Rude Alchemy to get the joke.
Don't say this right now. What is this?
Absolutely hilarious.
It's scary.
Oh, honey.
I don't know what this is. What just happened?
So, Seth, I find a lot of creative people on Twitter, Facebook. I don't really go to Instagram or Pinterest. I just don't like those websites. I'm really not liking Facebook right now, so I mostly stick to Twitter. Where do you go to find creative stuff in people?
Creative stuff in people? I think a lot of the times my church community, just because I like to be involved there. I like one of the future people I want to interview is James from Triple Stitch back in Minnesota. and he's a band member, and he started his own band, and it's really cool just to see the impact he's had. I think mainly that, mainly that's my big outlet to like find creative people, but there's people everywhere. So,
Yeah, the one gift you definitely have is you'll see somebody on the street doing something creative, and you'll walk straight up to them like, "Dude, how did you get into starting doing this?" And you have no qualms with talking to people.
mm,
So that was one of the big reasons I recruited you for this podcast.
I like people. People are fun.
But yeah, that's really all the questions I have for you today, Seth.
Same for me, James.
Well,
Hey, before we sign off, if you guys have anyone you think we should interview or you want to connect us with, well, why don't you guys go ahead and email us at creatorsanon@gmail.com.
that's CREATOR capital ZANON at gmail.com.
Capital C as well.
That's also on Twitter. You can find me at Creators Anon. You can also come chat with us or at least me in the podcast, or sorry, the Cash Junkie Discord. I'm there. I chat with those guys all the time. That's a great community to get in with. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us at the Gmail, and you can find us in the Cash Junkie Discord. So don't be afraid to reach out to us if you guys know any super creative people and you want to know more about them and they don't mind doing an interview. We record on Saturdays, so by all means, send them to us and we will.
Or even if you can't, like even if they're like on the other side of the world, we can always Skype them
Oh yeah,
and take the audio off. So there's like different options. So maybe there's someone that you want to like get out there. Feel free to send us an email.
yeah, we will connect with them any way that we can, minus jumping on an international flight because I live in America and international flights are super expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we will gladly connect with as many people that you guys are fans of. Whatever, if you feel like there's a creative person out there that just needs a platform to express themselves, please by all means email us, tweet us, tag us, whatever you can do. We will find them and we will give them a platform to express themselves. And that's the biggest thing we want to do. But all right, thank you guys for listening. I'm not exactly sure where our podcast will be available at this exact second, but I will update that and post it later. All right, guys, have a good one.